Story 1. I'm late, and this story isn't funny at all, but here it goes. She never spoke and was hard to communicate with, but she was a sweet girl. She didn't understand most things and got overwhelmed and overstimulated quickly. Our teacher assigned another student to take care of her at all times. This student was also a child, so they had no idea how to manage their friend. We would often hear her scream from overstimulation. I transferred to that school in 5th grade, and on my first very nervous day, she came to me, held my hand, kissed it, and put it on her forehead. In my country, it's a sign of respect to elders to kiss a hand like this. I was very confused as I wasn't her senior. After getting to know her a bit more, I realized she was trying to comfort me in her own way. I had more sympathy and, more importantly, more respect for her after that, something I felt she severely needed. Looking back, I knew even then that her situation was sad and she needed better care. But kids around her never taunted or bullied her, not even the worst kid in class. When we went on day trips as a class, we always raised money for her to attend, as it was known her family was poor. Parents and teachers raised money for her clothing and basic needs. When she cried out of frustration, anyone would console her, not just a teacher. She was like a little sister to all of us. I had to be transferred again because my family moved, but I'll never forget her or the people around her. They were all just kids but showed more compassion and empathy than most adults I see now. She changed the way I perceive people with mental disabilities at a very early age. Story 2, called A Quadriplegic Substitute Teacher Man on Wheels, stormed out of the classroom and disappeared. The school thought he tried to walk home, so they started searching everywhere, only to have him pop out of his own locker at the end of the day. Story 3. I've posted this before in an older thread. This was primary school. We would have been around 10 years old. There was an attempt to bring special needs kids in and integrate them into our classes. One guy was just so odd. It wasn't going well. One morning during recess, we're out playing on the swings and monkey bars, and a girl screams. We run over, and the special needs guy has blood running down from where his ear used to be. He's also dragging an open cardboard egg container, the ones we used to cut up for crafts, behind him tied to a piece of string. In that container is the missing piece of his ear. He'd cut it off with scissors. That's how the special needs integration program ended. Story 4. He used to engage in inappropriate behavior in the boys' bathroom, not in a stall, but by the sinks so that he would be seen by whoever walked in. He enjoyed getting caught. This bizarre behavior started in the 6th grade and lasted until he was 16, when he stopped going to school because he was arrested. When he was 16, he shot and killed his own father. He loaded his body in the back of his truck and drove around town, hoping for someone to see. When nobody admired his actions, he went to his aunt's house and tried to persuade her to look in the bed of his truck. He told her that he had killed a deer and she should come look. The aunt did not want to see a dead animal, so she didn't look. He drove around a bit more before someone finally saw and reported him. He was arrested and has been in prison ever since. Story 5. We had a kid who refused to write with a pencil or pen. He was able to, he just refused. He had a portable electronic typewriter that he would carry between classes all day, every day. He had some mental issues, obviously, but nobody really knew what his situation was. He got transferred to a special school after 9th grade. I tutored him for science once. He seemed fine. He understood the material. Story 6. He would howl like a dog. He would get in trouble daily and get under the table panting and barking and growling. One day there was an extra bad episode, and we all thought it was funny being 5 years old at the time. After that day, we didn't see him anymore. The state took him. It turns out he was kept in cages with the dogs at his house and learned dog behavior. I wonder whatever happened to him. I hope he got help. Story 7. It wasn't all on him, but we had a guy named Cody who decided to shave his head one day. Then, a few days later, he pretended to fall asleep in class and let someone draw on the back of his head. They drew a Hitler face, I believe. He got really mad about it, came in the next day, and posted a hit list on his locker. He got suspended. I was friends with him up until shortly before that episode. He started getting really weird. Hope he's okay, whatever happened in the end. Story 8. At school, they started jumping in big puddles because we had heavy rain for a couple of days. They proceeded to scream at the teachers, followed by his best attempts at front flips in the puddles. It was not funny. The guy was clearly having a breakdown. He always had weird behavior, but this was a clear meltdown. Story 9. There was a kid at school who had a habit of picking up worms from the sidewalk after it rained. He would walk up to random girls, snort a worm up his nose, and swallow it just to gross out whoever saw him do it. Every time it rained, he was out there snorting worms. Story 10. Lost a bet playing that game from South Park where you kick each other in the nuts. He didn't kick first, so he lost and had to wear a Hitler uniform to school. He apparently had the costume on hand ready to go. Story 11. He wrote and recorded a rap about the teachers he wanted to kill. He claimed it was art. Then he claimed it was a joke. Neither the school nor the police saw the funny side of it. Story 12. During study hall, he would soak tissues in his own spit or mucus, then drape the tissue over his face with his head tilted back. The third time I witnessed it, I loudly called him out on it. He claimed it wasn't gross. It's just how he was cooling himself off. Story 13. He would jump out from inside trash cans, yell, "They're all going to laugh at you," then run off. Weird, not dangerous or evil, but 25 years later I still remember him. Story 14. In high school, it was mandatory to shower after physical education unless it was your last class of the day. Freshman year, my locker was in the same section as a chronic masturbator. Almost every day, he would get so aroused during the class that he would run to the locker room, strip off his clothes, and masturbate into an empty locker. Then he would grab his towel, run into the shower, and be back in minutes. It was very strange. I hope guys were checking the lower lockers before putting their stuff in there. Story 15. There was a kid at my school who would exclusively Pac-Man walk. He would never cut corners and always go to the end of a sidewalk, stop, turn at a right angle, and continue. Story 16. He got bullied so much that the teacher placed him at a desk by himself at the front of the class where no one could bother him. Then he acted inappropriately in class, and the Hispanic kid, who could barely speak English and would later go on to kill his dad, screamed, "Teacher, look, he's doing something inappropriate." Story 17. I came here to say we had one kid who would eat all his fruit. I mean all of it, bananas, oranges, mandarins, and so on, with the skin still on, apples including the core. Whatever fruit people had, he ate the whole thing. But after reading the other replies here, this kid's looking pretty normal all of a sudden. You all went to school with some nut jobs. Story 18. He would choose a pimple on his face, name it, and feed it dirt and whatever else to make it grow. He basically made them super infected and even grosser than normal acne. Story 19. He was in my 7th grade science class. Our teacher was a young woman, 27 years old at the time. During the sex education portion of the year in life science, he asked if she'd take her shirt and bra off to show us how to breastfeed. That was an instant trip to in-school suspension. However, it did not end there. Somehow, and I don't know how, he ended up messing up in-school suspension and ended up having to hang around the school vice principal all day. He was the only one we ever saw manage to score the level lower than in-school suspension. Story 20. The weird guy at my middle school smelled like horrifically bad. I don't even remember his real name, but we called him Jock, as in jockstrap. He was odd, and retroactively, thinking back, he was probably on the spectrum. He wasn't a bad guy, he was just smelly. Nobody really associated with him much, but when we were in 6th grade, the September 11th attacks happened on a Tuesday, and I had a friend in math who was freaking out. His dad was flying from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, and with the attacks and no instant communication, he couldn't talk to his dad. Jock sat with my friend and reassured him for the hours we were at school. Nobody had any idea what was happening, but he just assured him that his dad was fine. It turned out his flight was grounded. The dad was fine. Jock was a little hero and a reassuring presence on that day for my friend. Story 21. Stapled his homework to his knees and then acted surprised when that meant blood got on it. The same kid also ate pencil lead and once tried to sharpen his pinky in the pencil sharpener. Story 22. I was going to say I was the weird kid because I kind of was, but after reading other replies, I'm starting to think I have a different definition of weird. I was quiet and ate paper and made jokes that no one would possibly get. So I was weird as hell, but I was not a psychopath or willing to hurt anyone or anything. Anyways, I grew up into a weird adult. I still struggle with speaking up, but I stopped eating paper. Story 23. Got drunk off Southern Comfort he brought in a Coke bottle. Got on top of our American government teacher's desk. Went, forget school. Exposed himself. And urinated all over the assignments we turned in. That's not the only thing he did. He had the Secret Service visit his house. This was when George W. Bush was president during his first term. He screamed, in the middle of the quad during lunch break, that he was going to harm the president. Not in those words. The Secret Service visited his house, asked him a series of questions, and told him that because he was a minor, they were going to keep a file on him. Last I heard about him, he dropped out of high school and moved with his girlfriend to Chicago. He started a band. That was around 2004 to 2005. Not sure what happened to him. Hope he's doing okay. Story 24. Elementary school. We had a girl climb out the window in 6th grade and try to leave school. She was in the classroom next to mine. Middle school. This one boy was known for being caught engaging in inappropriate behavior in class. He got a strange reputation for the rest of his school career. Also, his eyes were constantly heavy and red, like he was under the influence. High school. This one girl, who had always been goth and dressed accordingly, changed her name to Moth and started wearing elaborate makeup that probably took hours to do every day, as well as dressing like a fantasy creature. People thought she was unusual, but I thought her outfits were cool. Story 25. I got caught inappropriately watching Dragon Ball Z in the public library. In the middle of the library with my pants down, and it wasn't even adult content, just regular Dragon Ball. Story 26. On their own, these two individuals weren't that weird or strange. But when they were dating, they slit their palms, joined hands, mixed their blood, and then licked their palms in class. I think they went out of their way to be the weird couple in middle school. Story 27. He wore these baggy, crusty sweatpants, and we were pretty sure he didn't wear any underwear under them. Anyways, he would masturbate under the desk with his hand in his pocket and walk around with visibly wet marks on the crusty sweatpants like nothing happened. Weird kid. He sells used cars now, which feels oddly fitting. Story 28. My brother's friend got caught by the principal jerking off into a Yoo-hoo bottle in the bathroom. He got suspended. When he came back to school, he had a yellow Yoo-hoo shirt with a red dotted line at his waist that read, "Do not shake below this line." The principal didn't find that funny. Story 29. Put his binders hanging off each side of his desk and then was masturbating during class. Felt very bad for him when a video of him doing it circulated. Story 30. The special needs kid in my 7th grade class leaned into me and told me that if the teacher gave him a bad grade on the test, he would kill her baby. The teacher was pregnant. The kid was regarded as having special needs, but he was just a psychopath. Every student knew he wasn't special needs, but he was treated that way by the adults. It shocked me hard. I never treated that guy as a peer again. Story 31. I knew this girl since pre-kindergarten. In kindergarten, she peed in a mug and tried to give it to our teacher, saying it was tea. In 5th grade, she put itching powder in a bottle of lotion and gave it to girls she hated. She dropped out of high school to run away and become a stripper. She actually seemed to be successful because then she opened up a weed shop right after it got legalized in the state we are from. The last ones are not all that weird. I am just reflecting on this woman's life, laughing my head off. Story 32. I went to school with the kid who said, "On every level but physical, I am a wolf." Yes, he did act like a wolf at school and ran around with a tail on. Story 33. Wore the same black long-sleeved shirt and green sweats every single day, except for picture day when he showed up in a full 3-piece suit, perfectly polished dress shoes, and a tie. Story 34. He took off his shirt and threw it in the trash can because it was too smelly. The teacher was speechless. Story 35. Humped the table legs at our round table while waiting her turn to read. Seriously, teachers would tell her to stop, and she would be just sweating away. And believe it or not, her name was Felicia. Story 36. The kid was angry at a teacher, so he stood on the teacher's desk and had a major diarrhea spill all over it. The whole story of what happened is that it was a day when the school had set different tests for students to test their knowledge in each class, and no bathroom breaks were allowed. After lunch, a peculiar child started feeling a bit queasy from the meal. When he tried asking to leave to quickly use the bathroom, the teacher denied him since they didn't want any disruptions during the testing. The kid got mad, and when the teacher turned their back for a moment, he climbed onto the teacher's desk. Suddenly, everyone heard a loud noise, and the kid had a full-blown diarrhea accident all over the desk, not caring if it got on his shoes as it poured out. The teacher turned around the second they heard the noise and froze in shock, seeing what was happening. By the time the kid finished, he jumped down and then urinated on top of the mess, spreading it further over the desk, and laughed.